What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, my name is AkeemHaynes. I'm a two-time Olympian, Olympic bronze medalist, author, motivational speaker, and sports commentator. On my channel, we talk boxing, MMA, track and field, and of course, motivation and encouraging content. If this is something that you enjoy, then I hope that you subscribe to the channel. Now, let's get into the video. Chris Eubank versus Conor Benn. This is a big fight. Make no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's a lot of people saying, man, it's not that big of a fight. But no, this is a big fight, right? Because the history and the storyline between these two men and their families, this is a fight that I felt like was only a matter of time before it took place. I didn't expect it to come this early, but nonetheless, here it is. All right, for those who don't know, I want to make sure I give a little bit more context behind these two before we move forward, right? This fight is at a catch weight of 157 pounds. Conor Benn usually fights in the welterweight division, which is between 140, 147 pounds. Eubank, who is a super middleweight, fighting between 160 and 168. So there's a challenge for both men. Benn to add 10 to 15 pounds and Eubank to lose 10 to 15 pounds. And I think that will be a challenge for both of these men because there's a science to adding good solid weight and a science to losing weight the right way. So biting, they both have done that correctly. They'll both be able to make that weight. Benn probably walks around that weight, whereas Eubank probably hasn't been in that weight since maybe what, the amateurs, right? I'm not sure. Please correct me if I'm wrong and let me know in the comment section. But the catch weight makes for an interesting matchup, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. But let's start with Conor Benn, right? 21 fights, 14 coming by way of knockout, no losses. I think Benn has made improvements after each fight. One thing he doesn't lack is confidence. He has plenty of that. He's a tough boxer with a lot of heart, a lot of will, a lot of grit as well, too. And he's mean. He's a mean boxer as well, too, man. So we know he's a strong puncher. He throws every shot with bad intentions. He wants to take you out early as he can, right? He said this a lot in different interviews. If the shot is there, he is going to take it. And he said, when I shoot, I don't miss. I like that talk. I like that confidence. Keep that same energy, Conor Benn, as you have been doing leading up to this fight that's going to happen next week, Saturday, right? Conor knows how to close out the show. When his opponent is hurt, it's only a matter of time before his strength and his power gets imposed upon you and you find yourself on the mat. Over the years, I talked about the improvements that he's made in his fights. Over the years, I've seen a bit more head movement, more patience, better shot selection inside the ring. He's gotten much more mature in the ring as he's fought boxers with respectable records. I think Benn does some really good things offensively in the ring and he'll continue to get better. I'd like to see a lot more jabs from him to set up his shots and not just coming in and trying to knock you out in one shot, right? Strategy, adjustments, and timing are going to be big in this fight because this is a big step up for Conor Benn. Not only is this a big step up for him weight-wise, but also talent-wise and skill-wise. On paper, his biggest win might be who? Chris Algieri, Chris Van Heerden, Sebastian Formella, right? Maybe one of those. While I think that was probably his biggest win on paper, his toughest fight to date, in my opinion, came against Cedric Pinaud, right, in 2018. I remember seeing a video he posted after that fight, right? His eyes look completely shut. Benn is there to get hit. That's one of the knocks about him. One of the questionable things about him is when pressure is on him, how does he react? How does he respond? When someone else is the aggressor and he's not the aggressor, right? He tends to leave himself open because of lack of defensive responsibility. In that fight, he took a lot of punishment, right? Because he didn't care much for defense. He swings heavily without snapping his hands back quick enough to cover himself up, nor does he have the footwork to get himself out of trouble. He often overextends himself sometimes and finds himself in trouble. He doesn't mind taking risks to land the big shots. Now, I'm all for taking risks in boxing. There are times when you are going to have to take a risk, right? But you have to know when to take that calculated risk rather than just fighting emotionally and start swinging at will, trying to please the crowd and letting the adrenaline take you through it and get the best of you. Eubank has very good timing and is a good counterpuncher. If Ben comes in recklessly, there's a good chance that he's going to get caught and he might get dropped. I think in this fight, Ben has to definitely be patient in this fight, pick his spots, pick the right spots at the right time, and try to not let the emotion and the crowd noise and everything else get to his head that he does not follow his game plan. He's explosive. He has the power to be able to cause some problems for Chris Eubank, but he cannot just go in there without a plan. He has to go in with the strategy that I'm sure they've been practicing in camp. This is not a guy that you want to go in recklessly. Chris Eubank is too athletically sound and technically sound where he's going to capitalize off your mistakes. But let's touch on Chris Eubank. 32 wins, 2 losses, 23 wins by way of knockout. I was watching the face-off and he said there's no pressure on Conor Benn, right? He's in a sweet spot. While I don't agree with all of that, I think there's pressure on both men, right? He also said there's a lot more pressure on me. That I agree with, right? He's got more experience. He's the bigger man. His name is out there a little bit more. He's got the bigger reach. If this was a checklist fight on paper, Chris Eubank would win in most of those categories. But it's not. And I think the advantage of the weight distribution and gain, I think it goes to Conor Benn. I feel it's a lot easier to put on weight more than it is to lose it. So that will be interesting as the fight goes on. A lot has happened with Eubank in the recent years. You know, obviously his relationship working with Roy Jones, and you could see how much a shift has been coming from working with him in his previous fights, right? Especially against Liam Smith. Right, he lost his brother as well too, so that's something to keep in mind, man. It's a lot that goes into things away from the sport to mentally lock in. The other part is he wants his father to be in his corner, but his father does not want him to fight. This is a fight that goes back to where it originated from, and that's both dads. Nigel Benn is going to be in his son's corner. Is Chris Eubank going to do the same? And then it makes me question, he wanted his dad to train him as well too, especially for this fight. And I don't think his dad wants any part of the fight, let alone wanting to train him. So I'm not sure what his training camp has been like. Who's in his corner? Who's in his ear? He looks good physically. He always looks in peak form and athletic shape. Conor Benn is taking this fight very, very seriously. I've seen some things where we're talking about weight gain for Chris Eubank. He's eating some things that makes it a lot harder to lose that weight. How seriously is Chris Eubank taking this? Does he think he can come in and just walk over him? If that's the thought process, man, he may have another thing coming. But these are just questions outside of the ring. But inside the ring, man, he's confident, he's skilled, and much improved. And one thing about Chris Eubank is he gets better after each loss. He's only lost twice. Against Billy Joe Saunders, I thought he did well in that fight, but Billy Joe Saunders was just sharper and cleaner in that fight. But Eubank responded well post-loss, winning his next 8 fights, knocking out 7 of his opponents before losing to George Groves. After his George Groves fight, he started to make some changes in his camp, right? And you started to see his style change a little bit more. That's when he started incorporating Roy Jones Jr. And you look at him and you see, wait a minute, his mannerisms are different, and you see a little bit more head movement, quicker hands, cleaner combinations, more speed, better placement, better shot placement, quicker reflexes, sometimes the leaping hook and that triple jab and double uppercut, right? Where does that come from? Well, you can tell that Roy Jones has been having a big impact in his corner as they are training together, right? Everything that I just mentioned right there, you can see that full display when he fought Marcus Morrison, right? That was a brilliant performance of everything I just said. He unloaded everything from every angle in that fight and looked effortlessly doing it. I think that was one of Chris Eubank's best performance in his recent fight as well too against Liam Smith. How easily he made that one seem. I thought he could have took out Liam Smith, but that fight, Chris Eubank was having his way all day, every day. And I got to be honest, my humble opinion, I think this version of Chris Eubank beats Billy Joe Saunders. I think this version of Chris Eubank beats George Groves. Those losses, I really think he needed because it made him better. It made him seek out to find how to be the best boxer. Where do I need to go? What do I need to change? And after a loss, that is when your true character is tested. And that went to show me that Chris Eubank, man, he will do whatever it takes to win and do whatever it takes to get better. So the outcome, right? I think Chris Eubank is a very good boxer with sound skill, technique, and is now in the best years in his boxing career, right? I think the best years are right now in front of him. I don't see him losing this fight. Look, Conor Benn is a dog, right? He has the heart, he has the will, he has the power. But Eubanks, to me, is just a better boxer to me. He'll stay more disciplined and be less emotional in this fight. Eubank now seems like everything is coming slower for him. When things start to slow down for you in your sport, that's when you know exactly what you need to do, how to do it, how much you need to train. And for what I've seen in his recent fights, he looks very sharp. The only issue for me is what the Wayne drain does to him, what the clause and the rehydration is. That to me is what I think would make this a more difficult fight, right? Ben is going to put up a great fight, but do I see him outboxing Eubank? No. I think his way of winning this fight is to win by KO, and Chris Eubank has a strong chin. If Conor Benn does not set up his shots properly, I don't think that he is going to be able to just catch Chris Eubank on a lucky shot. Timing is going to play a key factor in this world, and to me, I think Chris Eubank has better timing than Conor Benn does. Conor Benn has been down before against someone who doesn't have the power nor the skill that Eubank has. I have Eubank winning this fight by KO. The other thing that I want to say as well, too, is, man, this is a lot bigger than just the fight at hand, right? Because this is also their father's fingerprints and handprints on it as well, too. So both men are probably going to get up a little bit more in this fight than they have in previous fight because of the magnitude of it. But for me, I have Chris Eubank winning this fight. The experience, the skill, the speed, the discipline, I think it's really going to show in this fight. I have Chris Eubank winning this fight by KO. What are your thoughts on this fight? Who do you have winning this fight? Let me know in the comments section below. How do you have it going? This is a great fight. If you would like to support the channel, there's a couple ways you can do so. You can like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to support by way of donation, you can find options in the description below. Any amount would be greatly appreciated and goes towards the growth of this channel. If you'd like to follow me on social media, you can find my social media handles on screen as well. So with all that being said, if you've been watching the video this time, then do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, and we'll definitely see you next time.